But once again, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to In Other Words, a podcast designed to make us a little smarter about the people around us. And I'm here with Professor Joe Jennings, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. And we've been talking about these beautiful beginnings, in the life of Joe Jennings. And I'd like to know, Joe, a little bit, more about your performance times in the city, and some of the musicians, of course, that you've encountered. I think that you've already mentioned Howard Nichols, and, I guess that's your ace buddy.
Yeah, well, we were together, and we still, as a matter of fact, the last time, as a matter of fact, he's going to end our series that you performed on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, week after next.
Which is Joe's Jazz Joint, by the way. If you can get online, look up Joe's Jazz Joint, and you can follow him on some of the things that he's doing.
Yeah,
too,
yeah, some of the stuff is going to be getting up. But as far as those performance things are concerned, there's been, I guess you could look at that several different ways, because when I came to Atlanta, we did a series of performances at the Atlanta Center for Black Art, which was where I produced the performances there, and we were actually trying doing it in such a way to inspire the creative part of the artist, because so many times, like musicians or artists who are or could be strong artists, but they spend their time recreating. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's so, because a lot of times that's profitable. A hit song comes out, or hit groups comes out, and what they do is you form groups where you recreate the music that's popular, but you do it so you can get work in a popular
cover bands.
Right. Thank you. But what we were trying to do, because this is a Center for Black Art, we were trying to develop that atmosphere, because there are not a lot of clubs that are trying to get groups to come in and play their creative music, and create stuff. So we were hiring groups on Sundays, and it became a strong spot. The place would be packed with different music, and we would feature different popular musicians around the city playing their own music, And we developed groups, because I met the late Ojita Penn. I met O.G. Well, we met at sessions at Hong, and he played in Life Force for a while, and he would play some of his own stuff over at the Atlanta Center for Black Art. And you had, that's where we kind of formulated a Life Force, And then as far as Life Force, we developed the group to the point where we played different jazz clubs. And I never played a jazz club for long periods every night, that kind of thing. We would go in and play just like they would have other groups come in and play for a week or so we would play clubs like that. We did about 30 years of the Atlanta Jazz Festival.
Wow.
We played for, as a matter of fact, this is 40 years of the Atlanta Jazz Festival.
Wow, that's...
Yeah, and we are in most of those. Really.
They say 40 years of Atlanta Jazz Festival. I think, we need to look at a lot of the things you got floating around here, man. Celebrating 30 years as 30 years as a jazz educator.
That came from the New Jersey alumni. They developed that book. And said we played New Jersey we started our main tour in the New Jersey. They were really instrumental in us getting strength, because the alumni were in contact with each other. But anyway, we did the Atlanta Jazz Festival. Then another approach we had was the what do we call it? The Mobile Jazz Atlanta, which was similar to, and I have to say, really inspired by Jazzmobile in New York. You know, where they had had methods of moving the jazz around, called it mobile jazz. But we actually had it on. We had a mobile jazz device, which was a part of Atlanta Parks and Recreation.
I remember that big tractor trailer.
Yeah. And they would move
the stage, just take the whole stage.
Mobile stage, break the stage down, had the sound and everything there. And we took ours to housing development projects, took it to different neighborhood locations, and we also took it to basic parks. Well, let's reverse it. Because Parks and Recreation was supporting it, we took it to most of the parks, but then we would take it to other areas. But the main idea is to take jazz music to those neighborhoods and to people who had for the kids to hear and for the people who were not able to go to your jazz clubs and play whatever, but they wanted to hear the music. And just take this great music that was theirs to the people, you know. Well,
you had a very inspiring moment with big band.
Oh, yes,
too.
yes,
I mean,
yes.
A lot of good players coming through.
Well, we had a big band that was named the Neighborhood Arts Ensemble.
Oh, okay.
And it was it developed in the Neighborhood Arts Center, the original Arts Center, which it was. And that was different. Actually, when we started, we had a joint contract. I was able to talk the Neighborhood Arts Center developers to form a corporate venture with the union, the Atlanta Musicians Union. So we had a corporate contract with them where they financed portion and the Arts Center financed the portion of it, where we would play concerts in the city, downtown. We would play it in schools and different places where we were using, at that time, we were using professional musicians. Great, good band, good. I really enjoyed that. And it was inspired by and came from the late Duke Pearson, because when Duke Pearson was ill, he moved back here and formed the band, and Howard and I and several other, James Hudson, and the Hudson brothers, and other musicians who were well known but professional musicians in the area, were in Duke Pearson's band, and Duke played, and we also, I put together a band. And eventually, when Duke Pearson got too ill, he really let me have a lot of his music, because we were pretty close.
Just because your listeners might not know exactly who Duke Pearson was, maybe you can.
Duke Pearson was one of the great big band arrangers and composers, and great jazz musicians, more because he had small groups. Duke Pearson, he was a recording artist with Blue Note. And he was one of the A&R people for them. But he was well known. He had developed, he was known as a musician in Atlanta, and he moved to New York as a composer, as a producer.
Right. I mean, he yes, I get
as a piano player, and was a trumpet player as well.
I know I met a lot of musicians through him, because they came to visit when he became ill. They came back to the city to visit him in particular. There was a statement that there would be no Donald Byrd without Duke Pearson.
Right. That's right.
So I mean, in essence of his career.
Yeah. But he was one of the great musicians. One of the great jazz musicians, one of the world famous jazz musicians.
So your band was an offspring of.
Was an offspring of it, yeah. But there's a difference now, because. I had a union contract for, to do, performance, trust fund that we would use. You had to use professional musicians then, and it was offspring. But eventually I maintained the group for a while, and then start using, younger musicians and, earlier musicians, older musicians, but not necessarily union musicians, where we maintained the program. But and I retired it because we were doing as late as 3 years ago. We were doing concerts We did monthly contracts in one of the churches that I was doing the mass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We were talking about, your recent performances and your compositions based on the life of Paul Robeson.
Yeah, that was one of my accomplishments, or one of my endeavors, and one of my things which I still need to finish because I don't consider. But we produced it at the Arts Exchange, one of the offspring of our arts centers that started back in the day. But the Arts Exchange was where I presented it, and it was about. It wasn't about Paul Robeson. That's what I want to make clear. It was inspired by Paul Robeson. But and because of when you really look at the life of Paul Robeson, his life was, when you go back to his parents, they encompassed the whole thing up to his, from slavery, right, up until his death, which was, I guess, which he was a really major force in the evolution of the revolution against slavery. A powerful force in it. But anyway, it was the movements that I had a suite that parallel slavery. Movements were developed from different movements in the evolution from slavery to freedom, as we know it.
So, what's the first title?
The first title was the boy. Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot, but
The Voyage.
Oh, okay.
The Voyage, right? Yeah. That's what I named it. I don't have my notes, but The Voyage was the first title, which was a musical representation of moving the venture from Africa to this country. And things was happening. So what I wrote were compositions, jazz compositions that reflected or manifested the emotions and the feelings of different movements, different parts of a suite that represents different segments in the African American's life in this country, that represented from what we call the voyage to the end of the movement. Yeah. Here we stand.
Oh yeah.
Together, here we stand. And it was a good idea, and it had a good response to it, but it was far from perfection, but it was the beginning, And I would as a matter of fact, I wrote a grant, but I didn't get it to finish it, to complete it. Yeah.
Well, maybe somebody out there would want to hear this and maybe fund the rest of the project.
We'll manage to get you because the voyage is online, so you can put the voyage from the Here We Stand. So you should be able to get and you can play a little bit on here.
Right.
Yeah. I liked it. The voyage. It was one of the simplest, but the one I like. Sometimes the simple things are the ones that are the most accessible. But the big band period, I mean, that was a larger ensemble, but put together specifically for the performance of the voyage itself. I mean, performance of Here We Stand. But anyway, we continued to perform with the big band. What the name of the The name of the center.
What was at the Arts Exchange?
No, the Neighborhood Arts
The neighborhood
Ensemble.
Arts Center. Okay, Arts.
The Neighborhood Arts Ensemble. Well, we kept that name until the last things we did were a series of performances at the Church of Incarnation that I was performing third Sunday masses, and I started writing and performing a third Sunday mass at the Church of Incarnation, which was a more kind of an artist kind of a congregation. And we did fifth Sunday big band concerts. But it was kind of difficult keeping it when you're not doing a lot of performances and the kind of rehearsals you need to keep a band like that performing adequately and performing together. It's kind of difficult. It was kind of difficult at that point to maintain it, so I decided to put it to rest. You know? Yeah.
So do you see yourself taking on any new ideas, projects you thinking?
I think when I'll write some things. I still have some things I would like to play. I don't know how well I would be able to do them, but I have a concept that I've been working on for years, called that deserve a couple of books on improvisation and composition, which I call parallel centrality, which is several centers moving together. I'm not going to talk about it.
Matter of fact, if you start talking about it, it would be quite confusing.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't want to get it to the point of being non-confusing because I haven't published it yet. You know, and I don't want anybody else to get say, "Oh, okay. That can be done."
Man, Joe, you've lived such an extraordinary life, and this is probably just a thimble, you know, of everything that we could even talk about, man. But maybe we'll get a chance to do a part 2 of some sort, to make things a little more evident, especially when you get to the centrality.
Oh yeah, right. Well, maybe I don't. It would be nice for me to say that because you helped me understand that my life wasn't as boring as I think it.
I don't think so. All the conversations we've had, I don't think there's no such thing as boring. Maybe challenging in many ways, but
well, it has been challenging.
So I mean, and even us talking and all the connections and people that you've been around, people that you've inspired, people who've inspired you. It's just a world of a huge net, that's been cast. And I don't think, what you always said about Sidney Bechet's line is one long song.
That's right.
One long song, man.
Long song, and you got to see. You have to see yourself as that. I mean, you can take that and transform it into your life. What you believe or what you do, or what you want to do. It's all one long song, and you're constantly. You're in charge of it. Yeah. So we feel that some other force is dragging us around or pulling us back or not pulling us as far as we're supposed to be. Yeah, but it's
waiting on the muse, waiting on something to change,
It's your song,
Well, look, we've had a beautiful time together, man. Yeah. I just want to thank you for the time.
Yeah, appreciate
we spent together, man. And this is Alfonso Sanders once again trying to make sense out of connecting some of the dots of beautiful human beings, that can also lead us down some trails that are less trodden, and especially in the thought processes of being able to share information that might help somebody else along the way. And all of it related to life and mostly to the arts and the contributions that's been made to the arts itself. So thank you again for watching. In other words, and we hope to bring you another podcast soon.